Now, in the first place, I want to say how impressed I am with your courage to come on and make a video with me before I even tell you what the subject is going to be.
Mm. Going to be.
And not everyone will do that, and so I thank you. I got to tell you, this can't be right. This stuff I'm learning. Did you know the total political spending is about 2% of total Christian giving, which in turn is about 2% of total Christian income? Did you know it is a quarter of what Americans spend on pets? Total political spending is about a quarter of what Americans spend on pets. Did you know only about $1 of every $100,000 that Christians earn is spent reaching the lost? Now, does anybody see in these facts any untapped potential for rescuing America and much of the rest of the world from hell? It's hard for me to believe these facts, but unless I learn they're incorrect, they will remain in my as yet unfinished book. But the supporting links are there, and please, someone, if you know other evidence that calls for a different perspective of these facts, let me know.
When did you first start writing your book, Dave?
That's an interesting question, because I have to decide. It's kind of the outgrowth of other books I've written. That I suppose I started about 55 years ago. But this particular book, I probably about 3 years ago, I published an article that was kind of the germ of this particular book.
So you must do some cutting and pasting with the computer, some of your old articles you've written, and you can put it into your new book?
Yeah, some of it. But this stuff that I found here about pets was unknown to me a week ago. What do you think? Can that be true, what I just said?
Could be. A lot of people have pets, and more people are getting pets and spending a lot of money on them, just like children.
Yes.
See when you get to the news we watch indicates that our nation is all of our money is being spent on politics. But websites I found indicate that there's only $14 billion was spent on all political races in 2020, last year. And I think it was $87 billion was spent on pets in America. Genuine biblical training shines such bright light on such cruel darkness that we shudder to see the two politely separated. We want to act, but we want more ability than we have, which puts passion in our prayers. Our love for the victims of darkness challenges us to grow. Luke 18:7, and shall not God avenge his own elect, which cried day and night unto him, though he bear long with them? I tell you, he will avenge them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man cometh, shall he find faith on the earth? not everyone accepts the challenge. Not everyone has the love to care that others suffer, or faith that God really will enable us to help, even though the way to success isn't at all obvious. The excuses for apathy include, I don't have that talent. You ever heard anyone say that, Don?
No, but Moses would fall in that category.
Yeah, Moses. Moses says, I stutter. I can't talk. And God says, who made mouths? Exodus 4. So, I don't have the talent. Well, Matthew 25, verses 14 to 30 challenges us to acquire that talent. How about, I'm not called to do that. When spoken by someone aiming much lower and easier, whose real objection is to the cost, risk, and difficulty. How about, I have to take care of my family first. Problem is, evil, unopposed, threatens our families. And when we do not personally oppose evil, we do not learn how to immunize our own families or ourselves, or even ourselves, against that evil. Can you relate to that? All the work you've done and with false child abuse charges and how the people, but not want to get involved and change the politics, they end up not learning how the bureaucracy comes in and takes away children from loving parents. You try to share that in church and they won't allow it, too controversial.
Well, I've noticed parents, when they lose their kids, some of them just won't put up any resistance. They just give up.
Pretty
That's sad.
tragic to give up on your kids. How about this one? That's unrealistic. It won't work. See, the proper inquiry is whether it should work. If so, impossibility is not a biblical objection. The proper work of those who care about God's will is to meet and reason about what should happen, and then pray and act to cooperate with God with enough faith to not quit. I mean, what else is there to do with? You got years ahead, maybe, to fill up. You got to do something with your life. You got to do something to fill up those years, besides just spend it on yourself. But see, that is unrealistic. I'll tell you what that means. It means that will take more resources than we have. More money, more ability, more people. That would take a miracle. So do you see the problem? That is unrealistic when that is a righteous vision, is unbelief. It's not faith. To keep our goals, our mission in life realistic is to limit our vision, to limit our mission to others in need, to what we judge that we can pretty much accomplish without God. It keeps our lives under control. Our personal circumstances do not drive us to our knees in desperation, and the circumstances of others wait outside the gate with our sign that says, sorry, there's nothing more I can do. How's that going to get God the fellowship with us that He desires? If the tragedies of others can't drive us to our knees, what will God have to do to us to get us there? Must God give us personal tragedy in order to build our fellowship with Him? You got an objection. You surely have some objection by now, don't you?
No, but it reminded me 2 days ago I got a call asking to take this person down to the hospital to see their friend that was in the hospital. She'd been there for 10 days and she's very sick. She's had chemo, cancer, different things. And so the person I took down there told me about what her friend was going through. And I understand that the person in the hospital is also a Christian. The person I took down to the hospital told me that she's a Christian, but I'm hoping that a friend being in the hospital will encourage the friend that I took to the hospital to trust God more than just trusting doctors when things seem to be going downhill for the patient in the hospital. Sometimes we just need to get closer to God, and I think you wrote that in your paper about something along that line. But our problems can draw us closer to God.
So, someone may be watching this, and you're thinking, we are sufficiently generous, unlike the heartless rich man in Luke 16, verses 19-31. We do let the beggars at our gates have some of the crumbs that fall from our tables. Well, yeah, some of the crumbs that our dogs leave behind. 87 billion was spent on pets in 2018. Giving to environment and animal organizations is about 14.16 billion. 24, on the other hand, 24.7 billion goes to foreign missions. Well, that's nearly a quarter of what we spend on our dogs.
And you mentioned animal organizations. Does that include the veterinarians? Because there's a big demand for veterinarians for the animals. You don't know if that's that would be included in the animal organizations you were talking about there?
No, I really don't. It's a good question. I didn't read the article in enough depth. I got the link here. I'll put it up. Anyone curious can go find out.
What, you got any idea?
I guess my assumption when I read it was this talking about animal organizations like PETA that want you
Okay.
to be nice to animals that you eat. Other than okay, so 24.7 billion goes to foreign missions. Now, most of that helps those who are already Christians. Only 2.1 billion went to reach those who have never heard about Jesus. That's $1 out of every $100,000 that Christians earn. Americans spend more than that, more than $2 billion a year, on Halloween costumes for their pets.
That's funny.
Am I putting the figures together in an entertaining enough way? Christians are a third of the world's population for the last 50 years. We make 42 trillion a year. 24.7 billion what we spend on missions is 59 cents out of every $1,000 that we make. It is half what Americans spend on dieting programs. It is less than half of what is embezzled from church budgets by church employees.
Wow.
It is 3.5%, a 30th of the 700 billion that is the amount of all Christian giving. The rest we spend on ourselves, on the churches we attend, the activities we enjoy. $700 billion is also about what Americans spend on Christmas. We dine at a $42 trillion annual table, from which 2.1 billion of crumbs reach those who have never heard of Jesus, after 100 billion is eaten up by our dogs.
Mm.
People should tithe on the amount of money that they spend at Christmas time. You know, if they give 1% of what they spend at Christmas time, the Lord could be blessed.
Yeah. Here's a quote from Barrett and Johnson, who did a survey and found a lot of these figures back in 2001. One of their summary statements was, Christians make up 33% of the world's population, but receive 53% of the world's annual income and spend 98% of it on themselves.
Would you back up and repeat that sentence again? Or the Christians make up 33% of the world's population and receive 53% of the world's annual income. That's because God blesses Christians financially, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just writing about how economies work. Economics works. We have strong economies because of service. To the extent we serve, serving others is the foundation of economy. It builds wealth, because when we figure out how to give other people what they need and want, they are motivated somewhat to pay us so that we can continue serving them. That's the essence of how wealth is built, and how we end up creating new products and new services that make us wealthy, that give us things which kings of past centuries could only dream of. To the extent that, you see, to the extent that serving others is our main motivation, the wealth creation is unrestrained. Now, on the other hand, to the extent that we are motivated just by making the money, and we don't really care about serving others, then the only thing that will keep us from stealing or fraud, or gaining money by fraud, is simply the fear of getting caught. So, to the extent that there's dishonesty in a culture and people not wanting to serve, then to that extent, much innovation and resources has to be wasted on security, on stopping people from stealing and from identifying people that commit fraud. And so, to the extent that we have a moral and upright culture without fraud, without people that are lazy and that want to receive without earning, the wealth is just unrestrained, and so that's why Christian cultures, compared with pagan cultures where those motives are nowhere to be found, are wealthier. And if we were more forward in articulating these principles, our wealth would be a lot more than merely 30 or 40% more. So, dog owners spend an average $1,201 a year. Now, that means if a Christian dog owner earning, so let's say, he makes $50,000 a year. If he tithes to his church, and his church gives 3.5% to foreign missions, 0.3% of which reaches the unevangelized. In that example, he gives $175 to foreign missions, of which $15 reaches the lost. He spends 80 times as much on his dog as he gives for the lost. The Bible places a great priority on reaching the lost. The Bible says nothing about caring for dogs. Let me read the story of Lazarus and the rich man. This is from here. Would you read it? Yeah.
Luke 16:19. There was a certain rich man which was clothed in purple and fine linen, and fared sumptuously every day. And there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, which was laid at his gate, full of sores. Verse 21. And desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table, moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. And it came to pass that the beggar died, and was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died and was buried. Verse 23. And in hell he lifted up his eyes, being in torment, and seeth Abraham afar off, and Lazarus in his bosom. And he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus, that he may dip the tip of his finger in water, and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. But Abraham said, Son, remember that thou in thy lifetime receivest thy good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things. But now he is comforted, and thou art tormented. And beside all this, between us and you, there is a great gulf fixed, so they that which pass from hence to you cannot, neither can they pass to us that would come from thence. Verse 27. Then he said, I pray thee, therefore, Father, that thou wouldest send him to my father's house, for I have 5 brethren, that he may testify unto them, lest they also come into this place of torment. Abraham said unto him, They have Moses and the prophets, let them hear them. Verse 30. And he said, Nay, Father Abraham, but if one went unto them from the dead, they will repent. And he said unto him, If they hear not Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded, though one raised from the dead. It talked about hell and how hot it was. Well, it's getting hot around here too. July is supposed to be pretty warm.
Yeah. And that's just talking about the weather.
But I think hell is going to be worse.
Yes.
It's wonderful that Christians driven from the churches to put feet to their pastor's sermons, which identify darkness. They go out into those forums where voters decide whether to pattern our laws after the principles of heaven or of hell. Because if they didn't, where would America be? Yet for all the attention politics receives, total political spending in 2020 was $14.4 billion. Total political spending in America, $14.4 billion. That amount is only 2% of total Christian giving. And half of that 2% is from those who hate God or who won't reason with others to correctly discern God's will. And most of that $14.4 billion is a desperately expensive media bombardment for the attention of voters, too apathetic to spend more than an average 10 seconds reading a $2 brochure they get in the mail before they throw it away. While their churches tell them politics merits so little Christian attention that organizing should not even be allowed on church premises. Tithing remains critically important, but Jesus never gave money to political candidates. Imagine the impact of darkness if Christians doubled their 1% giving. What if the average Christian politically active dog owner increased his support from where what his dog is 100 times what he gives for freedom, to where his dog gets only 50 times what freedom gets? Where would the devil hide?
Previously, you talked about Jesus making payments of some sort. There is a verse in the Bible that talks about going to the fish. Jesus commanded going to the fish and hook a fish, and there would be a coin in there to pay the taxes. Wasn't that right?
Yeah.
So Jesus and his disciples did have some money and paid their bills.
Okay.
Where we got a lot of people nowadays that don't believe in paying their bills.
What if hundreds of Christians showed up to listen to and reason with minor candidates, eliminating the need for expensive advertising? What if churches became the forums described in 1 Corinthians 14 with goals including 1 Timothy 2 verse 2? But unfortunately, Christian activists no longer discuss publicly the scriptural support for their positions. They assume their positions are biblical, but without testing them through discussion with those who disagree, they often miss God and oppose each other. They go into the darkness, but they carry no light, and the lost remain unreached. And in America's schools, colleges, and social media, many are not just unreached. They're heavily indoctrinated against God with the support of politics, starved of light. The end.
So we should be bold, courageous. Share the love of God with all kinds of people.
What?
We should be bold and courageous and stand on the word of God and share the love of God to people so they know the truth.
Did you say bold and crazy?
Courageous.
Courageous. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure you are.
Courageous. That's what some people thought Jesus was. Crazy, but he's not crazy. He was a cool dude, some people say.
Cool dude. He had long hair.
Yeah. Some people think so, anyhow. Yes. How do you know that? Have you saw him? Did you know him?
The Bible talks about it.
We're at here in the Bible. We're at in the Bible.
You don't